Well, this should be your first on your own video for our linear relationships unit. Make sure for this video everything I write down you need to write down. So if you need to pause, if you don't quite get everything written down as fast as I do, if you need to pause the video, please do that because everything needs to go on your note sheet. It's very important so that you can work at your own pace because if you don't write everything down, then you might not understand everything, and then you'll have to work more at everybody else's pace in that slower group. So it definitely helps to get everything written down. We're going to talk about graphing a line in this video. Okay? And we're going to graph a line from an equation given in slope-intercept form, which we reviewed in class, or you reviewed in class with your teacher. So slope-intercept form, if you remember, is y equals rise over run times x plus b. And that should be plus or minus b because b can be positive or negative. So let's just quickly review what this is. Well, rise over run is probably our most important part. Rise over run is the slope, right? So it's the slope. We sometimes call it m. We call it the constant rate of change. You don't have to write all that down if you don't want to. We rise up or down, but we always run right. Remember. So we rise up or down, but we run right. If we rise up, it's positive. If we rise down, it's negative, but we run right. B is the Y-intercept. I always just abbreviate that Y-int. That's where the line is going to cross the Y-axis. It could be positive or negative, so it could be here in the negative Y's or here in the positive Y's. If it's positive, it's plus B. If it's negative, it's minus B. So that'll be important as well. It's where x equals 0. So x equals 0. So then we call that the point 0, comma, b. And you'll hear me refer to that in this video. And then x is our independent variable. Y is our dependent variable. You guys remember that? All right, then we're going to go on to actually graphing these lines. There are 8 steps that we're going to use in graphing the lines. So the first step is if there's no b, so if no b, then add a 0, okay? So if, for example, you have y equals 2x, okay, then we're going to change that to y equals 2x plus 0. So then we remind ourselves, okay, that's 0. That means our b is starting at 0. Our line, our first point is at 0, 0. Okay? So that's the first step, and that will rarely happen. The second step is to actually plot the y-intercept. So to plot the y-intercept, and that would be the point 0, comma, b. So if my b is 5, I'm going to plot the point 0, comma 5. If my b is negative 2, I'm going to plot the point 0, comma, negative 2. Okay? And then we're done with the y-intercept. We've got that first point plotted. Then we're going to move on to the slope. And our first step with the slope is to make the slope a fraction, if it already isn't a fraction. So for example, if we have this y equals 2x, we're going to change it into y equals 2 as a fraction would be 2 over 1x. And then remember we added our 0. Okay? So if your slope is just a whole number, just put over 1 because anything over 1 is just itself. Right? Sometimes you'll have a slope that's already a fraction and you can skip step 3. Okay? Step 4 is to rise up or down. And remember, we're rising up if it's positive. We're rising down if it's negative. And then step 5 is to always run. Which way do we run? We run right. So we always run right. Okay? Step 6 is going to just be to go backwards. And in going backwards, we're going to do the opposite. So if we rose up, we're going to rise down, and if we ran right, we're going to run backwards. Okay, so we're going to run left. Okay, then we're going to ask you to label at least 3 points. And you'll see why that's important. And then your last step will just be to check your work. So if you need to pause the video to get those steps down, go ahead and do that, because they're very important before we get into our first example. So our first example is y equals 2x minus 5. Okay, so my first step is if there's no b, add a 0. We have a b. We have a b, which is negative 5, right? So that means our first point is going to be from the origin down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my first point there is 0, 5. And I'm going to go ahead and label points as I go. Okay, 0, 5. Now my second slope is to plot the y-intercept. We just did that, right? So we did steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is to make my slope a fraction, which I need to do. 2 as a fraction is going to be 2 over 1. Okay, so that means I'm ready to rise. I'm rising up because this is a positive. So I'm rising up 2, and I'm running right 1, and I'm going to make a new point. Rising up 2 and over 1. From there, I'm just going to keep going. Rise up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And I like to do my points all the way through the graph that I have so I know what I'm doing. So I went all the way to the right. Now I have to go backwards. Step 6 is plot points backwards. So instead of rising up 2, I'm going to go down 2, backwards 1. Down 2, backwards 1. And a good way to check to see if your backwards is good, is correct, is that if it makes a straight line. So when I make my line here, I should be able to connect all the dots with one line. Okay? And be sure to make your line through the graphs because that's important. And then our 7th step is to label 3 points. Well, I have 0, 5 labeled. This would be the point 1, negative 3. This is the point 2, negative 1. And then I'm going to, you don't have to label all these, but I'm going to label the rest of them too. This is the point 3, 1. This is the point 4, 3. And remember, I'm getting these from just labeling points, a skill that you guys learned a long time ago. This is the point 5, 5, right? Because it's 5 over here and it's 5 up here. This is the point 6, 7, and this is the point 7, 9. If I want to label down here, this is the point negative 1, negative 7. This is the point negative 2, negative 9. Okay, now what I do this for is I want to show you something. If I look at what my y's are counting by, I go from negative 5 or 9 to negative 7. Whoops, this is a negative 5 to negative 5 to negative 3, negative 1, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. What am I counting by each time? Well, I'm counting by 2, which just happens to be our rise, right? If I look at the x's, what I'm counting by, I'm going from negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm counting by 1s, which happens to be our run. So your numbers should move with your rise and your run. Another way to check your work, which is our 8th step, is to just choose one of these points and plug it in. So if I choose a point, x is 4, y is 3, then I can plug that in. So does the point 3, does 3 equal 2 over 1 times 4 minus 5? Well, 2 times 4 is 8, divided by 1 is 8, so that's 8 minus 5, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So yes, that works. And it should work with all of these points. All right, let's keep graphing. Here, we're going to start with adding, or if we don't have a b, we're adding 0, but we have a b, so we're going to plot it. So I'm going to plot my point 0, 1. Okay, now moving on to my slope, make my slope a fraction. I don't even see a slope. What happens when we have this invisible slope is that we have an x, and so I like to think, how many x's do we have? Well, we have one x, and 1 as a fraction is 1 over 1. So we're just going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, over 1, all the way up. If we go backwards, we go down 1, backwards 1, and we can do that all the way down. And once I have a ton of points, I can connect them, and they should all connect with one line. Okay, and this time we'll just label a couple points. Let's label this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, comma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, comma 5. We have 0, comma 1, and let's label this is negative 4, comma negative 3. Okay, and you should notice that if I plug any of these points in, 4 plus 1 equals 5, 0 plus 1 equals 1, negative 4 plus 1 equals negative 3. So all these points work in my equation. Let's try another one. Y equals negative x minus 6. Okay, I don't have to add a b. I have a b, which is negative 6. So I'm going to start down here, 2, 4, 6. I'm going to label that point 0, comma, negative 6. And then again, here I have a negative x, so that's a negative 1 over 1x. Now, since it's negative, that means I'm going down. So I'm rising down 1, and I'm running 1. Down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. If I go backwards, instead of going down, now I'm going to go up and backwards. And again, I'm going to have lots of points since I'm just moving one at a time. And I can connect them, and they should form a line. And I have to label 3 points. So I have 0, negative 6. This is going to be, let's label this point here. This is negative, or this would be 3 is the x, and negative 9 is the y. And let's label this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is negative 6, and the y is 0. That's called the x-intercept. It's where the line crosses the x-axis. But that's not on our equation. Okay. Moving on. We have y equals negative 4x. Now this one doesn't have a y-intercept, so this is where we're going to have to use step 1. And so if we don't have a y-intercept, we add 0. Now we plot that point. 0 just means we start at 0. So we start at the point 0, 0. Okay? And then we need to make our slope into a fraction. So negative 4 over 1. So we go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. From there I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. Can't fit any more here, so I'm going to go backwards would be going up 4 and backwards 1, up 4 and backwards 1. And again, all of these should connect with the same line. And I can label some points. This would be the point 1, negative 4. This would be 2, negative 8. This would be negative 1, 4. This would be negative 2, 8. Notice I'm counting by 4s on my y's and 1s on my x's. Okay. Let's try this one. Y equals negative 4/3 x plus 5. We've got a y-intercept, so we don't have to add 0. We do have to plot it though, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, comma 5 is our y-intercept. And then here we have a negative slope, so we're going down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 3, 1, 2, 3. You can do it again, down 1, 2, 3, 4, over 3. And if I go backwards, that would be going up 4 and backwards 3, and I can only fit one of those. And then I connect them with a line. It's very important to connect with a line all the way through the graph. Then we can label some points. This would be the point 3, 1. This would be the point 6, negative 3. This would be the point 9, negative 7. And this would be the point negative 3, 9. Notice my y's are going down by 4, which is our rise, and my x's are going up by 3, which is our run. Again, we could plug in a point. Here, if we wanted to plug in, let's just plug in this point here, then we'd take, does 1 equal negative 4 thirds times 3 plus 5? Well, does 1 equal negative 4 thirds would be negative 12, or times 3 is negative 12 over 3 plus 5. Negative 12 over 3 is negative 4 plus 5. And that is 1. So it works. Let's try another one. Here we have a b. It's negative 2. So we're going to start at negative 2. And we don't have a very steep slope here. We're just going up 1 and over 3 because it's positive. Up 1 and over 3, up 1 and over 3. If we go backwards, we'd go down 1, backwards 3, down 1, backwards 3, down 1, backwards 3. And we have all these points. I forgot to label my y-intercept. This is 0, negative 2. This is 3, negative 1. This is 6, 0. And this is 9, 1. Here we have negative 3, negative 3. And negative 6, negative 4, negative 9, negative 5. Alright? You can just label 3 of those. You don't have to label them all. And that's all we have for practice problems. So you guys can try the ones on the video, and we'll see how you did.